Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, and of course this is the Baseball Hut 2, as I hit the computer. And we'll talk about a trade. Not a trade that's happening, not a trade anybody's talking about other than me. But I think it makes a lot of sense. I mentioned it on the Baseball Hut on Sunday. And I thought that it makes sense. I think a lot of people feel that it makes sense. But as you know, my New York Mets are not doing too well. They have all kinds of problems. They have leadership issues. The pitching has just been terrible. I don't see them being buyers this trade season. I really don't. So I am not a big fan of Francisco Lindor, the Mets shortstop. I thought the Mets were too much in a rush to sign him after they traded for him during the 2020-21 offseason. I felt that they needed to see if he could handle playing here. I heard a lot of rumors that he was a little soft, that he wasn't a player that could maybe handle the pressure of being with the Mets. It is not easy being a New York Met. It is much harder, to be honest with you. Because if you're a New York Yankee, the press here are hands off. They have a very light touch on you. But if you're a New York Met, they hit you with everything they have. And it can be very difficult to navigate. And the Met fans, we've had to deal with a lot of stuff here. We want to win. We're very demanding. We're probably more demanding than the Yankee fans. We want to win. I want to win. I want to win another World Series. And I want to see them win it soon. Now, Steve Cohen, the owner, promised us between 3 and 5 years. That's not an unrealistic thing. In 2022, they won 101 games. And they were one of the best teams in baseball up until September. And they didn't have a good September. They were 2 games above 500. They were 14 and 12. But they didn't finish well. They struggled to beat bad teams. They struggled to beat the Pirates. At the time, they were bad. They struggled to beat the Marlins. They lost a game in Oakland, which they should have won. Jacob deGrom had pitched that game. They lost 3 games in Atlanta. In October, they lost 2 out of 3 in the wild card series against the Padres. So this is a team that was at the height of where it wanted to be, and now we're at this point now. They are 5 games under 500. They're 12 and a half games behind the Atlanta Braves. So they're in tough shape, and this is not a good situation here in New York for our New York Mets. And I come to you to propose a trade. It's not a trade that can happen this year. I think this is too much in terms of the monetary situation for this deal to happen. But I think the seeds of this move is the kind of move that you can kind of talk about in season. And then usually in the off season, you make this kind of move. Now, New York Mets have this contract with Francisco Lindor. He's got 8 more years left on this deal. At $340 million. He got like $34 million for each year, pretty much. And he has a no trade clause. But any player can get moved. There's not this attitude, no chance in hell. It doesn't work like that. If the owner of a team wants to move a player, he's going to have to move the money. And people say, well, you know what? With this kind of player, the only reason a team would move a player is because there's a contractual reason, there's a financial reason. This is not a financial reason. Not from my point of view. Mets have a lot of money they could spend, not a problem. With their new owner. Well, now he's not so new anymore. But this is more of a baseball move. Okay, I don't think that Lindor can handle being here in New York. I think he's kind of shown that. I'll give you a couple of examples. 2 years ago, he got into a kerfuffle with Jeff McNeil. Players get into fights all the time. But then after the game, when the press asked them, they're all hugging each other and saying, oh, we're just talking about, was it a rat? Or was it a raccoon in the club, in the dugout? Complete total gibberish and childishness. Okay? That speaks of the immaturity of the players. The players should have said, look, we have disagreement on the field. We settled it, and that was it. Instead, they had to make a big deal out of it. Later that summer, the Mets made a deal for Javi Baez. this is where this came from. We know that Lindor and Baez, Lindor in particular, was not happy the way he was treated by the Met fans. He's very thin-skinned when it comes to us as fans. More to us than he is to the media. Okay, last year, a couple things happened. He hit a grand slam at Citi Field, and the fans cheered him. But he did not all rah-rah doing this rounding of the bases. In fact, he was very serious. He had a puss on his face. We have a famous story here from 2006 where Carlos Beltran basically went through the same situation. And Beltran was not going to go out for a curtain call. And he was pushed out by Julio Franco, the ancient one, Julio Franco. That didn't happen with Lindor. There was nobody in that club, on that dugout, that said to Lindor, go out there and wave your cap to the fans. That kind of stuff is very important to Met fans. If you're not a Met fan that's my age, must understand that the curtain call is a big deal here. It was perfected by my hero, Gary Carter. He perfected the curtain call. He understood that you do that out of respect for the fans that come to the ballpark and cheer you. Lindor didn't do that. That's a respectful thing that players have to do, especially players that are under fire. He needed to do that. He didn't do it. That bothered me. And then during the month of May, he promised Jeff McNeil that if McNeil had won the batting title, that McNeil would get himself a brand new car. Lindor has yet to fulfill that promise. And that's important because if a person says they can do something nice for somebody else and they don't do it, what's that say about them? And we know he doesn't get along with McNeil. Now, we have a situation where he has been here 3 years. I've seen enough of the player now. I have an idea of what kind of player he is, what he can do, what he can't do, how he is on the field. I cannot come up with a big moment where he carried the Mets over a course of a game, carried the Mets over a course of a week, 2 weeks. He's not an elite offensive player, in my view. Maybe you think differently. That's how I feel. He's an elite defensive player. He is one of the best defensive players, probably the best shortstop in the National League. He's that good. But I don't see him thriving here in New York. So I've sort of proposed an idea and a trade to a team, and I have a team. I think the team is pretty good. And that is the San Francisco Giants. They have Brandon Crawford, who's 36 years old. He's pretty much done. Let's be honest. So they're going to be in the market for a shortstop. They tried to get Carlos Correa. That didn't work out, obviously. So, and they've been trying, this is the Giants, been trying to get a big player on their team for many years. They tried to get Bryce Harper. They didn't get him. They tried to get Aaron Judge. They couldn't get him. Again, they tried to get Carlos Correa. They couldn't get him. They even tried to get Brandon Nimmo. They couldn't get him either. So Lindor would fit a need that they have. And as they need an everyday shortstop who is a star, and he would go there. It's not crazy like it is here. It's much calmer. The weather's cooler there. The fan base is very, very different. Much, much more laid back. Now, they've had success. They've won a lot of championships over the last 10 years or 13 years. But they've been banned for a long time, and they've been looking for another star with that team. That, to me, would be the perfect place for him. Los Angeles, too. Los Angeles is not a bad place. Now, if Shohei Ohtani is going to be a free agent in the offseason, the New York Mets, if they sign him for this instance, they'll have him on the payroll, and they'll have Lindor on the payroll. Lindor would have been here 3 years, going into his fourth year, knowing that he's been a disappointment. He's a disappointment. And then you bring Ohtani here. So you're spending all this money on two players, and you still have to sign Pete Alonso. Do you want to go this route? I mean, we've seen so far now that this is not a... Don't want to get it too far down the road. You don't want to wait too long to move the player. If you wait too long to move the player, then you're not going to get the value that you want for Lindor. The Mets, in my proposal, would trade Lindor. They'd have to take some of them. They'd have to take some of the money. No problem. If they get their best prospect, his name is Kyle Harrison. He was a left-handed pitcher that they drafted in 2020. He's their number one prospect. He's left-handed. Mets need young pitching here in the worst way. Mets have no young pitching here, in the farm system. One of their prospects, Mike Vassell, who pitched in AAA, he couldn't get out of the fourth inning in his debut in AAA. Did not pitch well on Saturday night. So trade surrounding Kyle Harrison, some other prospects, possibly a major league player. That's my move. But you cannot do that now because it just doesn't make any sense right now. You'd have to move a lot of money around. You really don't like doing that during season. It's the kind of thing you plant the seeds, and hopefully this video will plant that seed in some way. But that's my proposal. Francisco Lindor for a package that includes Kyle Harrison and a couple other prospects and a major leaguer. That's what I'm asking for. He cannot stay here long term. He has to get moved. This is a baseball move. The Mets will never be able to win with this player here. He's too soft. Sorry. I hate to do this, but I throw my hands up at the player. And his wins above replacement is very good. But that's based on the fact that he's such a good defensive player. Well, and his offensive numbers is below 100 in the OPS. So those numbers are not good, and they're declining. He would do well out there, and the pressure would not be crazy. His wife wouldn't be fighting with everybody for him, and it would just make a lot more sense. But you let me know what you think about this video. Please subscribe to the Baseball Hut 2. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.